Good morning. Oh, part of me is chomping at the bit to want to share what I'm going to be sharing tonight in my meeting here at the Mary Horgan Center um, about awakening our latent gifts. But I am going to wait until Friday's video, which I may actually do tomorrow. Who knows? But I want to save that until after I talk about it tonight. So far, only one person has said she's coming, and that's my friend Margie. And attendance, except for the love line, attendance at my meetings has been pretty bad. I mean, horrible. The worst it's ever been, the lowest it's ever been. So I don't know. But anyway, the subject that I'm going to be actually talking about today is probably one of the reasons why attendance is so bad. The title is this: Is spiritual warrior an oxymoron? I shared an article on Facebook yesterday by Greg Prescott, Are You a Galactic Warrior? He said there were two types of light workers. One is all about love and light, and the other is the galactic warrior who fights in the name of love and light. The very first comment in the thread was, quote, sounds very out of place for me. Warrior? From war? Then, again, quote, same person, another comment. In my humble opinion, IMHO, all against is just an attractor of what we don't want, and fight, again in quotes, cannot be the way to light up darkness, end quote. The thread drew lots of comments from people on both sides of this perspective, which is the subject of my video for today. Is it a contradiction to consider one's self spiritual and a warrior at the same time? I don't think so, is the answer to the last question. And I don't think that spiritual warrior is an oxymoron at all. But there is a camp of people, many of them in my local community, who do. And they see me as, what this said, an attractor of what I don't want. By focusing on what's wrong in the world, I'm only bringing more of it. And this is the perception or argument that divides the spiritual community, where I live and I suspect around the world. And it's a division that needs to be healed, and we need to take a really close look at this thing. The one who I quoted, who made the first comment, and then the third, I guess it was the third comment. Was that true? Is that true? Yeah, the first comment was by him. Sounds very out of place for me. And then I commented, it's the war against ignorance fought by telling the truth and choosing to love. That was my comment. And he said, in my humble opinion, all against is just an attractor. My comment brought 9 likes, and his comment brought 2. And then the next comment said that I have been on both sides, mostly the love and light side, and occasionally the warrior spirit steps in. And then it goes back and forth, and that the person who had made the original comment, where is his comment here? Will I find it? Anyway, he said he quoted Gandhi. He quoted Gandhi, the famous thing, be the change you want to see in the world. And I commented on that quote. Let's see if I can find that. Gandhi stood up, this is my quote, Gandhi stood up to injustice from the time He arrived in South Africa from law school in England. He continued that throughout his life. If there ever was a spiritual warrior in my lifetime, he was it. And I also put a quote in there from Martin Luther King. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Mr. Gandhi, and I just watched his movie a few weeks back, not very many weeks ago. I watched that movie with Ben Kingsley. Gandhi was consistently, throughout his life, drawing attention to the injustices of the British rule in both South Africa and then in his homeland, India. And he made his mark on the world by pointing out the injustices. Now, did that just bring more injustices? One could say it did. It was an incomplete revolution. They gained India independence at the cost of dividing the country into what now today is three political alignments: Bangladesh, Pakistan, and of course India. It divided religions that had somewhat lived peacefully prior to that time. Did it increase the problem? It certainly didn't make it go away. I mean, the British withdrew, but the Crown, the City of London, the financial thing, still maintained the colonial crap, and it continues to this day. I'm of the persuasion, and a lot of my friends disagree with me on this. I'm of the persuasion that what we ignore, we get more of. As I said in one of my comments on this thread, let's see if I can find it again. To me, it is the love and light people that choose ignoring, that perpetuate the very things we want and need to change about human society. If everyone stood up and judged not people, but unlawful behavior, we could clean up the corruption quickly. The longer people ignore the reality of our situation, the harder it is to co-create a world that works for all of us. A just world based on love and light of truth. The consequences of evil behavior are all around for us to witness. Unconditionally loving evil is insane. Ignoring our problems will not make them go away, but will make it easier for those creating them to get away with what they are doing, even if that is us. It's about taking responsibility and cleaning up our mess. Those are two separate comments, both by me. One got 10 likes, one got 6 likes. Now, it's not a contest to see who can get the most likes. I did, but it was my thread. I was the one that originated the thread. And it was pointed out later on by someone else that people were more on my point of view than on others. But in my local community, it's probably the reverse. Most people would agree with this thing that you don't fight. That I can remember one of the peace rallies that I went to, and somebody had the sign, "Fighting for peace is like screwing for virginity." I'll never forget that that little quote. I don't know who originated it, and I'm sure it wasn't the person who created the sign. I've seen it more than once in my life. In any case, the concept of fighting is a strange concept. Is it fighting to stand up for the truth? Is it fighting to stand up for justice? Is it fighting to take a bold stand and lift a loud voice, protesting, yes, fighting, protesting the things in this world that make this world hell on earth. And it is hell on earth for those that are suffering. You can turn your head and turn a blind eye and put your head in the sand or up your butt. But many people in this world, to this day, to this hour, are suffering. In 2013, on July 31st, people are going hungry. People do not have meaningful work. People do not have enough resources that they're aware of to make their life meaningful and even a little bit fulfilling. I mean, there are places of bloodshed and violence against everything that's decent, against everything that's loving, because we have allowed the insane part of us to ignore the problem, thinking that if we don't give it energy, it'll go away. If we don't pay attention to it, it'll go away. That's never worked either. That's never worked either. Gandhi brought attention to the injustices, and these many years later, virtually my whole lifetime later, those problems still are there. Gandhi was killed when I was just a little boy. Just a little boy. And the problems that he stood up to try to bring attention to are still there. If the spiritual community could get on the same page, and I honestly believe the same page is the page that I'm on and have been on, and that I get so much resistance from in my own local community, we must, all caps, underlined, bold-faced, we must bring attention to the things that we want changed. We must bring attention to the, quote, negative things. That does not perpetuate them. That shines the light on them and allows them to be transformed and allows that energy to be transmuted. I absolutely believe in all of my heart that those that put their head in the sand, those that ignore the problems, thinking that that will make them go away, are very, very ignorant in their ignoring those things. Very ignorant, very naive, not at all realistic, and they refuse to take up the warrior motif. They say, well, it's not my job. Let me tell you something about the human body. The immune system is the warrior part of the human body. And if that warrior part does not do its job, and if that gets resistance, that immune part gets resistance from the brain or from other choices of other organs, so to speak, the whole homeostasis of the organism, us, our bodies, can be destroyed fairly quickly, actually. Fairly quickly or fairly slowly, depending on circumstances and variables. But nevertheless, it is destroyed. We get diseased and we die. And that's not a given, folks. We don't have to live with disease. We don't have to live with suffering. If we would cooperate with the spiritual warriors, instead of inventing systems like our medical system that actually destroys the spiritual warrior facet within our own body. And they're trying to do the same thing in our culture, in our society. They try to destroy the spiritual warriors that stand up for truth and justice and draw attention to the things that we don't like, because we have to acknowledge the bad if we're ever going to create the good and experience the good. To me, that's so common sense, and yet there's so much resistance to it among spiritual people. And I see that as one of the most horrific qualities in human consciousness. Yes, it's been put there, I believe, by the dark workers, by the dark side. It's been reinforced by those who like to have the ability to operate without any accountability, without any responsibility, so that they can get away with murder, literally with murder, killing everything that's good, killing the immune system in the case of the medical establishment through the use of antibiotics and introduction actually into the human mechanism, into the human body of viruses and other malevolent creations, which I'm going to talk about in my next video. The next video, of course, is going to be with Aristo, and we'll be shooting that or filming that or recording that in a little while. But on Friday, you'll hear what I see as the solution, and I'll be sharing some of that tonight, of reconnecting with our gifts and awakening our latent gifts. But it's not about, it's never going to be about, in my opinion, turning a blind eye to the realities of our situation, our experiential realities in the matrix, in the illusion. Consider what I'm saying and stay tuned. Thank you. Namaste.